Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and we've got a unique opportunity today to test out a truck that is so difficult for us to get our hands in the new car media fleet. So for those of you who don't know, typically new car reviewers pull from media and PR vehicle fleets around the country that are provided by the manufacturers. And because they're provided by the manufacturers, typically brands want to have the bigger engines, the fancier trims, all the bells and whistles for two reasons. One, because they want that opportunity to show those off, and typically a lot of viewers and shoppers want to see what can be done with all of the different vehicles. But also, they don't want journalists to get into a car and maybe see what isn't necessarily so nice, or why a car might be considered sort of cheap or basic. They just want the journalists to be happy and to be impressed, price be darned. But that means that I have not gotten to drive a new 2.7 liter EcoBoost F-150. And we got the chance to test my buddy John's truck, but that was an older vehicle. I think it was a 2019, if I'm not mistaken, just recently. And it already had miles and accessories on it and everything. And I did like the engine, but I didn't really get a good impression for it. However, this is my buddy Brad's truck, and he just picked it up. It's a 2024, but he got it left over for just a hair under $40,000, which is really impressive, especially for out here in Southern California, because the sticker price on this truck is $51,000. It's an STX trim, which means it's one level above XL. So theoretically, you would think, oh, this is going to be very basic, because obviously above that you have XLT, Lariat, King Ranch, Platinum, Limited, Raptor, all of those. And Tremor, I guess, as well as a trim. But from the time that I've spent with this truck, it's a really nice place to be still. So for all of you in the comments who come into videos and say, oh, trucks are way too expensive. On one hand, yes, I fully agree with you. I mean, we had an XLT Power Boost earlier this year and it was 75 grand. But you can, if you shop smartly and you're willing to forgo maybe something like heated seats and adaptive cruise control and a push button start, you can get yourself into an attractive, functional, and nice to drive truck for a reasonable cost. So just because this one says it stickers above $50,000, we all know pretty much every American auto manufacturer, especially with the trucks, puts a lot of money on the hood right away. So if you do a little negotiating, you know what to shop for, you can get a pretty darn cool deal. This one is in the carbonized gray, and it's only rear-wheel drive. It's two-wheel drive just in the back. And that is part of the reason why it was a little less expensive, but it also makes it interesting because today we're also testing out the new Falken Wildpeak T4W tires. My buddy Brad, when he got the truck, he liked just about everything about it, except he really wasn't happy with how the highway terrains, technically, they're kind of these light version of all-terrain tires that a lot of manufacturers are using now. He didn't like how they looked, and he didn't like how they performed. So with just a few thousand miles on the truck, he put these Falken Wildpeaks on for a few reasons. One, he likes how they look. Now, he did tell me that initially he was kind of going for the AT3s because he didn't know if he wanted the more burly, aggressive look. You can see these have kind of this sidewall design now that helps extend the appearance from the tread out onto the sidewall. And some people like how that kind of adds an aggressive look. Some people don't. Brad wasn't quite sure, but it's grown on him, and he likes how it sort of looks with the black wheels, the carbonized gray and everything. He also did a 2-inch leveling kit, raises the front end up a little bit, makes it look a little bit more proper, especially when you're dealing with a two-wheel drive truck. So he wanted it for the looks, but also because this is only two-wheel drive and he is a motorcycle and dirt bike and off-roading enthusiast, he wanted to still be able to take his truck out to trails like this and be more confident that he wasn't going to get stuck in a situation where he was quite literally stuck. Now, we do have a locking rear differential, so that's going to help us a little bit today as we traverse some of these sandy trails, but we are aired up to the door placard, 35 PSI cold, and we're going to see how these AT4Ws technically do on a rear-wheel drive truck. So nothing in the bed, no weights, very light, don't even have a bed liner in here. So that's kind of the second part of this video. We're going to talk about what it's like driving a $50,000 F-150 here when typically everything we drive is $70,000, $80,000, maybe even $90,000. Talk about the 2.7 liter, and we're going to talk about these tires. So a little bit more of a walk around this truck. Like I said, is not aggressively optioned by any means, but some things I like and don't like. I don't love how we don't have a tailgate dampener. However, very quick and easy to add one of those yourself. I do like that Ford is still giving you the power outlet right there, 110 outlet, and then a little cubby over there for storage. Just the 5.5-foot bed, nothing very special there. And because tailgate is still pretty light, not too hard to close, looks like we have a little bit of a towing package. We've got the standard hitch receiver and a 7-pin and is that a 4-pin? Yep, 4-pin there, as well as a little blank spot so you could put an extra power back there if you needed it. Coming around again, we see this one has the black appearance package, so we've got the blacked out Ford badges, the blacked out wheels. That I typically not a fan of black wheels, but I actually like the spoke design of these ones, so not too mad about that. And then coming into the back, the truck is tinted a little bit, so hopefully you all will be able to see the interior okay in this bright sunlight. But I like the cloth that Ford uses here, the STX trim getting kind of this cool yellow greenish cross stitching. And then when you lift the seats up, without having the kind of storage area that we see on a lot of the press trucks, there's actually a ton of room back here. So Brad says sometimes he just puts both of the seats up if he's putting gear back here or something like that, just riding with him or one other person. Very smooth, large carpeted area, very easy to put things. And then I was impressed to still see 2 USB-C ports, a wall-style outlet, and a 12-volt on top of air vents back here. So still not a penalty box for people riding in the back seats. And of course, all the room you'd come to expect from a full crew cab F-150. And then up in the front, a little bit of a disappointment to me to not see any sort of seat height adjustment. I'm okay with manual controls. I understand, keeping the price point. I'm totally fine with having manual, but because you can't raise or lower the seat, you're a little bit stuck with the seating position. Fortunately, I'm 5'10", so I'm fairly average, but I know if Alyssa was in the driver's seat here, she'd have trouble seeing up over it without being able to raise the seat. So a little bit of a bummer there from the STX trim, but of course all still the cargo areas that you've come to love on an F-150. Let's pop the hood open real quick, take a look at that 2.7 liter EcoBoost. Now Brad actually came out of a Chevy Silverado 1500 with their 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, the 2.7, and he quite prefers the 2.7 EcoBoost. He was fine with the Chevy, but at about 60,000 miles, he was already starting to have some weird transmission behavior. So after about 5 years of ownership with that truck, he jumped ship and he went over to a Ford, which he hasn't done for a long time, but so far he's been really happy with this 2.7 liter EcoBoost. And again, this isn't a manufacturer vehicle, so you could know that I'm being honest with you guys all, that so far he's been pretty happy. He's got about 5,000 miles on it. He said he's been averaging about 20 miles per gallon, and that's not very scientific. We've also had the tire swap and the leveling kit and everything, so take that for what you will. EPA is 21 in mixed driving. I can say that according to the vehicle's trip readout, I was getting just about 20, 21 or so cruising out here on the highway. But again, no sort of science to that number whatsoever. I told Brad personally I would remove the front air dam here unless you're doing a lot of long highway haul. I'd rather have the looks and the functionality, but we'll see if we scrape it at all when we're out here today. So let's get on in, fire up that little V6, and put these Falcons to the test a little bit. As we hear that classic Ford chime bring it to life, we do see 2 very large screens. And I've got sort of a love-hate with the fact that even this more basic truck gets these large screens. For the center, I like it. I like how functional this sync system is. It's large. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto look great on it. Very straightforward, easy to use, and I appreciate that we still have all of the physical climate controls. However, oh, and you also have navigation built right in. That's pretty good for a more basic vehicle. However, I could take or leave the big digital screen in front of us. I actually kind of prefer analog gauges. Now, yes, it'd be nice to have a little bit of digital customizable info in the center, but I'm just a sucker for the look of those standard analog gauges. So a little bit of a bummer to not have those. I get it. It's cheaper and easier for Ford and looks more impressive to just have the same screen across all their models, but alas. Anything else worth noting? Oh, no automatic climate control, which again, I don't really mind. I kind of liked just getting in here and setting the temp right sort of to the middle, putting fan speed 1, and off I drove. So that was kind of cool. Integrated trailer brake controller, like having that at this price point. 12 volt and still another 400 watt, 120 volt plug right there. And because we have the column shifter, which I love, you can open up the mobile office package and eat your food which is what I imagine most people do. And look at this. Nice padded surface there to put things, and up here. Now, we are going to start off maybe with some kind of mild climbs. We don't have the diff locked or anything. We're just going to sort of see what happens with these tires. I am going to throw it into off-road mode, because why not? What do we have? Slippery, trail, light off-roading. That's fitting. So I do want to try tackling that at some point, but let's go around here first. Let's not start off right away with something that I'm kind of 50-50 on whether we're going to be able to make it or not. When I told Brad we were going to head to the off-road trails to do some filming, he said, nothing too intense, right? I don't want you hurting my baby. So I feel for you, Brad. I'm confident that we're going to be okay. No sort of pinstriping or anything. And hey, if we got to back down, we'll back down. Now these Wildpeak AT4Ws are a little bit more, actually I'll say fairly more aggressive than the AT3s, and that's kind of created a little bit of confusion out there on the interwebs, because you would think if it was just AT3 to AT4 that you're just getting the next evolution of essentially the same tire, so maybe some mild improvements but overall the same product, but that's not really the case. This is a more aggressive tire. We're changing from 2-ply to 3-ply bands in there. It's a harder, I believe a harder compound as well. Now this isn't a tire review channel, but from what I understand, this is holistically a more intense tire. So is it a little bit overkill for a 2-wheel drive truck? Well, I suppose that depends on how you use it. It is triple peak rated, which means you can take it out in heavy snow conditions, and it should do quite well. So again, if you maybe you already owned a 2-wheel drive truck, you moved somewhere snowy or something like that, you just need to be able to get around, that would be nice. Also, if it's a situation here like Brad's using it, where most of his driving is just kind of highway driving, getting into work, that sort of deal, or hauling things around on the street, but when he goes out to dirt bike trail, dirt bike track, anything like that, motocross track, what if it's muddy? What if it's particularly sandy, something like that, where he wants to get? The knowing that you have a tire that can get you out of those sort of situations can be huge. So here's a good bit of incline right here. Again, diff open. Can we come to a stop in this sandier dirt? A little bit of slip, but it is working, and we are crawling right up. I also like the little off-road screen here. Even in just this STX non-FX4 model or anything, we get more off-road info than we did in the Tacoma TRD Pro. That still bothered me so much. That huge advanced truck, and you have such little off-road info on the screens. Shocks also seem to be competent here on the STX package. Obviously that's a very easy thing to swap out if you plan on doing more off-road driving. Just throw on some Bilsteins or some Foxes or something and you're good to go. But for slower speed stuff, if you don't mind getting jostled a bit, seems totally fine. Okay, do we tackle it? Is it time? I'm curious, I really am. Again, not aired down. Start with just, I'll probably lock the diff before we start crawling. It just seems silly to try it open. There we go. Locked into place. The only thing the off-road screen doesn't have is a pitch meter, but I imagine this is about 16, 17 degrees at least, and you can see how rutted out it is. Might actually end up just being a weight issue because we barely have any weight over the rear axle. I'm gonna keep just the slightest momentum. Oh, spinning. There we are. Okay, yep, so we're not gonna make that. That's fine. That would have been a lot. I'll give that to the tires. But again, a big part of having good tires is not only just what you can accelerate to, but also what you can decelerate, your braking. Could we get a little bit of a running start? I don't think I want to take it direct because we are going to have to turn once we get to the top. This is Brad's truck after all. Brad, what do you think? Should we send it? Let's send it. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. So we just need a little momentum. That's the key with a two-wheel drive truck, right? You just need a little bit more go. Not bad. I mean, that was significantly steep, and for the tires to be able to do that, full tire pressure, sandy situation. Hey, I'm happy with that. Here we go. A little bit more of a crawl. Yeah, no problem. I mean, that was a lot. If you're out there doing something like that with your two-wheel drive truck, you better be in some sort of unfortunate situation. That's not something you'd be doing regularly, or else you'd have four-wheel drive. Whew, okay, another steep decline here. Actually pretty impressed with the clearance and approach angles here on the STX. I mean, we do have the 2-inch front leveling kit, so that's certainly helping us, but haven't heard anything happening with that front air dam, so that's good. Now this one's going to be really interesting because it's a little less steep than that last one, but it's got kind of rocks and stuff, so we're not going to be able to take it quickly. We're going to be kind of crawling here. This is one we've done with the Honda Passport. Oh yeah, look at this. Absolutely no issue whatsoever. Oh, look at that. Who needs four-wheel drive? All right, before we get out onto the dirt road, let's hop out and see if we did anything to the underbody. I don't think we did. Take a look at the tires. Yeah, front air dam looks unscathed. Tires kind of, look at that, you can see sand way in there in the sights, so it's clearly flexing and grabbing the best it can with this slippery, gravelly sand sort of situation. Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. Let's unlock the diff. Get back into normal drive mode. And again, a lot of people are just using more aggressive tires because they have to drive a lot of dirt roads. So this sort of traction is going to be important to you. Also, having the strength of an all-terrain tire, especially on these 3-ply sort of tires, to absorb harsh impacts, rocks, not pop. That's going to be big. There you go. Let's turn traction control off. So again, definitely spinning out, but for a rear-wheel drive truck, nothing in the bed. Gets up and goes. Yeah. So obviously there are a ton of different situations that you may or may not be putting your all-terrain tires to the test. And without having a full testing facility or a whole year or so to test them, I really can't go through every one. But for Brad's sort of situation here, being able to negotiate trail with his bikes or parking lots, muddy parking lots, something like that, and to just look good, tires so far doing great. But let's get him out on the road and talk about kind of some of the pros and cons of going with the AT4, having this little bit more aggressive tire. I've spent about 80 miles with them already. I don't want to spoil it for you too much. We do have high quality binaural microphones recording our audio, but I don't know if it's just the F-150's sound insulation or what. They do a really great job at being quiet. What's that light we have? Is that our tractor control light or is that our drive mode light? Oh, there we go. Okay. Here we go, 50 miles per hour on older asphalt. You barely hear them. Now, we're not really talking much about turn-in and general road feel when we're dealing with a full-size truck, but they're stiff. I will say that. You feel the bumps kind of rattle through. Maybe if you're familiar with driving a more heavy-duty truck, it does feel a little bit more like a heavy-duty truck tire, and that makes sense given that they're more aggressive, significantly more aggressive, and robust than the tires that come on the F-150. If you're never going off-road, I mean, there are definitely better tires for you to buy than all-terrains. I know they look good and they look cool, but find something that is still kind of a highway terrain or an all-season. You're going to be that much more comfortable and efficient. But if you do spend some time off-road, you're going to want something that can get you out of a pickle when need be. And that's what these tires are doing without sacrificing too much on road. Now, something else to consider, these tires are significantly heavier than the AT3s. If I remember, it's about 6 or 7 pounds heavier. So that extra rotating mass is going to affect your economy and your performance. So if that's something that's important to you, again, maybe something to consider with these more heavy-duty AT4W tires. I am hearing them here at 57 miles per hour, 58. Hasn't been enough to bother me, but you notice it. But obviously, highway is going to be a big consideration for anyone moving to a more aggressive tire if they're concerned about road noise. So let's get up here on the 15, see how this sounds at speed. Is this, do we have a stop? That's it, well, interesting. There we are, full speed on the highway, and in this concrete section, you can hear the tires, but again, not coming through loud. Now let's take this time to talk about the 2.7 EcoBoost. I'm really curious about this engine because if and something were to happen where I weren't to be able to continue to make YouTube videos and or at least not be able to get the press vehicles, there's a good chance that there would be an F-150 in my future. I'd get something with a 6.5 foot bed, probably, if we end up having the other kid, maybe the crew cab, maybe the extended cab, kind of back and forth on that one. But I go back and forth as to whether I'd get the 2.7 or the 5.0, because realistically, the 2.7 liter does everything I would need. I mean, I'd have to look at the power figures right in front of me, but if I'm not mistaken, this engine makes as much power as the 5.4 Triton V8 that so many people lived with in the F-150 for so many years. I mean, look at this, 70 miles per hour, foot down, it jumps forward, it's quiet, it's decently efficient, it's gonna pretty much do everything you need out of a truck unless you're doing big time hauling. And that kind of becomes the sticky wicket in that if you want to get the max tow package, you can't get the 2.7. And I understand that. I mean, obviously, why would you be maximum towing with the 2.7? But outside of having big payload or big towing, the 2.7 is going to probably be more reliable than both of those engines, as well as being less costly and less efficient. But now, if I'm remembering correctly, there are certain trims that you can't get the 2.7 with either. So if I wanted to get something like, definitely couldn't get it with the Tremor. I think maybe there's a certain configuration of the XLT that you can't get the 2.7, even though I would like to. Maybe it's the 8-foot. Well, you can't get the 8-foot bed at all either. So it is tougher to get the 2.7 once you get into more well-equipped versions of the F-150. But for so many people, I think this engine is going to be plenty enough. I mean, you saw it kind of work in the slow speed sections when we were off-roading. You see it now driving on the highway. It's gutsy, it's quiet, it's refined, and it's reliable. So, a lot to like about this engine, and I'm bummed that I still haven't gotten to spend extended time with it. I'd love to do a road trip with a 2.7 liter F-150. Boy, look at this octopus. I'd love to know the backstory on that. Outside of the engine and the tires, this is an F-150. I will say, don't love the rubber steering wheel in here. I understand that they've got a price point, and again, if you keep adding little things here and there, the truck gets more expensive. There's a reason that base models and work trucks exist, and this isn't a fully base model by any means. I just take issue with the rubber steering wheels because it's something that you literally touch more than anything else in the vehicle. So I want it to feel nice. I would rather have cheap feeling shifter, cheap feeling door handles, bunch of hard plastics everywhere, but give me a nicer steering wheel to hold on to. Come on. Also, quick interesting observation, we had rubber on the bottom of that cubby compartment and this one, but this one is hard plastic. And I don't know if that's because in the upper models you get a shifter here or what. Maybe Brad took it out for some reason, but very strange that you have rubber on the bottom of nearly every other compartment, but yet none there. Driving around town here is where you, like I said earlier, you feel the more heavy-duty nature of these tires come through, kind of go over the road imperfections or holes or something, and it absorbs the big bumps, which is nice, but you definitely feel the bumps transmitted into the cabin like more of a heavy-duty truck situation. All things considered, though, I'm happy with this trim of truck. I think it's pretty cool, and I think it's nice that, again, for under the median new car transaction price, which here in America for 2025 is $50,000, for less than that, you can get yourself out the door into a truck that is going to be plenty fine to be in. Yes, it's not going to have all the bells and whistles. Yes, it's not going to be as nice and comfortable in here as one of the more premium trucks, but I just encourage you, don't fall into that trap that corporations would happily have you fall into, where you feel like you have to spend this kind of money in order to get a vehicle. You just don't. Look, there's kind of the same truck right there. We're looking at it from the outside. Looks cool. Admittedly, from a financial standpoint, I don't even recommend buying new. I recommend buying certified pre-owned, or if you're good with wrenching, like a 10-year-old Accord or something like that, or Honda Ridgeline or an F-150 or a Tundra or something. But if you do want to go out and get yourself a new truck, if you plan on owning it for a really long time, why do you need more than this? I mean, with the cloth seats, I don't really care that they're not heated. I've got wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. I think anything from a feature standpoint, maybe I would like wireless device charging so that my phone doesn't die as quickly when I'm running wireless Android Auto. But other than that, I mean, this is a nice truck. It really is. So let's meet up with Brad. Let's talk to him a little bit about his time with the truck and with the tires and wrap things up. Back here and static, I've got Brad here, the owner of the truck. And like I said, I've been happy with how it looks, how it drives, and sort of what it feels like stepping down a significant price jump, but still getting a truck that is nice to drive and nice to be in. So Brad, you've had the truck for about a month or so now, right?
Yeah, a little bit more than a month now.
Okay. And what are just some of your thoughts coming out of an older Chevy truck into this one? Why did you end up landing on the F-150? What were some of kind of your reasons that pushed you toward this?
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I'm someone who, I'm not an impulse buyer, so I spend a lot of time just going back and forth, looking, cross-shopping between the Chevy, the GMC, and the Ford. I haven't owned a Ford in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I had the Chevy for about 5 years, so I was looking for something a little fresh. I didn't want to jump into something that looked exactly the same.
What was the last Ford you had?
Whew. It's probably 20 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So they've come a long way, changed a lot. I was quite interested in this 2.7 engine, the EcoBoost on this. I know they've come a long way with that engine. I drove it, and honestly, that's what sold me on the truck. Is
Really?
Once I test drove the truck, that was kind of the significant factor that made me purchase it.
What was it about the engine that, was it you didn't expect it to be as powerful as it was, or I mean, what stuck out to you?
You know, it was a lot of different things. The 2.7 4-cylinder on my Chevy was economical, good motor, but it wasn't fun to drive. So I would say the biggest thing was this truck's just a little more fun to drive. It sounds a little better. It's a little torquier from the seat of the pants anyways. I know torque numbers are pretty similar, but it's just more fun to drive. It's got more power, and you also have the sport mode on it. So if you really want to have some fun, you can switch into that, which is nice.
Yeah, I remember with that Chevy motor, they put that even in some Cadillac sedans, and it's like it just doesn't fit the sporty nature of what you're trying to do, because it makes a lot of power down low. It's a very good just like trundle along engine. But I agree with you. I was doing about 70 or so and gassed this, and it still took right off. I mean, it's if you're not towing big heavy loads, the 2.7 is so much.
Yeah, and that was the thing with the Chevy. It sounded like a little car when you get on the gas. This sounds like a truck, which I like.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you paid attention much to the gas mileage, but it's actually getting better gas mileage, almost a mile per gallon better than what my Chevy was.
Really?
And the truck's still brand new, so
That's cool.
I'm averaging about 20, which is good.
Now, what have been some things that have stuck out to you now that you've driven the truck a little bit, about 5,000 miles or so? Surprises, pros, cons? I mean, anything that maybe kind of like you didn't think of off the bat, you know, new car drive.
Yeah, I would say the ride quality feel is different than what I'm used to. It almost rides more like a car in that it feels a little bit softer. You know, the cushioning in the seats feels a little softer. Lack of wind noise, so it's like, you know, the cabin is really nice inside, which gives me more of a car thinking.
I was surprised by that too. I mean, I think it even comes down to things like mirror design and a lot, because it is quiet in there.
Yeah. And then I would say just on the tech end, I'm not a huge tech guy. That's not primarily why I would buy a vehicle, but I do appreciate, you know, some of the upgraded tech features over the Chevy I was driving.
Sure.
Even on kind of a base-ish model.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously your Chevy was older, so it's kind of tough to compare. But yeah, I'm impressed that we still get such large of a screen. I was talking earlier in the video, I could almost take or leave the screen in the gauge cluster, because I kind of miss like the look of traditional analog gauges. But I understand, I mean, if you're someone who maybe is coming out of a 20-year-old truck, you get into this and you think you're driving the future, having all that screen in front of you and stuff. So
yeah, you know, the one thing I do like too is they have what's called the calm view on the gauge cluster area, and sometimes you can get overloaded with information. I put it in calm view. It just shows how much fuel I have left and the speedo, and that's it. And I kind of like that.
That's interesting. Yeah. So we talked also about how you've been taking advantage of this huge amount of space, riding dirt bikes and everything. If you're throwing gear, you told me you even have changed in the back here in inclement weather before and stuff. There's so much space.
Yeah, you know, for me it's a huge deal. I know there's some people who like the kind of mid-sized trucks, but for me, the full-size truck just makes more sense because of those fold-up seats. You can put a full gear bag in there, boots, helmets. I can throw an extra set of wheels in there. It almost like having another box, really.
Sure.
And days, you know, a lot of times I'm riding out in the desert in the winter when it's cold, or in the summer when it's hot. If it's really, really extreme, I'll just get changed in the back. Yeah. Which is nice.
So let's talk tires. I know you and I talked a little bit about tires when you first got the truck. What made you go toward, initially you wanted the AT3s, but we talked Falken, we went the AT4Ws. What led you initially, at least, to the Falken lineup in general, as opposed to everything else?
Well, I actually know a guy who works for Dunlop Tires, which is also the same parent company as Falken. And I kind of just asked him, well, Falken tires. I personally had always kind of associated Falken more with car tires and drifting, and that's what I remember seeing. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So when he showed me the AT3s, what I liked about the 3 was, you know, it's a two-wheel drive truck. I didn't want it to look super aggressive. I'm not going with a huge lift kit. I wanted a little more aggressive, but not too much. Okay. That's what the AT3 had. What I was really thrilled with, actually, after owning the tire, was just how long it lasted. I got about 64,000 miles on those tires.
Oh wow! So you had the AT3s on this?
Yeah,
on the
so
Silverado.
on my previous vehicle.
Return owner.
And I liked, I read a little bit on the forums about how some of the competitors were a little louder or would hurt fuel mileage. I didn't get any of that problem with the AT3s. So that's kind of what led me to stay within the Falcons.
And what's interesting, and I forgot to mention earlier in the video, even though I meant to, the AT4Ws now come with a 60,000 mile tread wear warranty on these ones, whereas I think the AT3s were 50,000. So theoretically, you should be getting even longer life out of these tires, which is incredible.
You would know better than I, but I think there's maybe a little more tread on these 4s. They're definitely a more aggressive looking tire, so that might be part of the reason.
Yep.
A little bit of a different design, but I think it's still an attractive tire and kind of does the job for what I need it to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're going to be impressed when you see some of the footage that I took earlier, because I climbed some pretty serious grade with kind of that sandy, like the kind of the terrain out there in Riverside County, sort of that sandy dirt.
Yeah.
And I mean, I locked the rear diff, and I was really impressed.
Yeah, well, earlier you'd asked me kind of what kind of driving I do with it. And yeah, a lot of it is city driving and just going to the motocross track, but a lot of times I'm doing off-road riding, like you mentioned, in the desert. And that's one of those where sometimes you want to park kind of off-grid and you got to navigate your way up some hills, or maybe conditions change from when you unloaded to when you loaded up.
I was thinking that.
And so, yeah.
And sometimes you're on a calendar schedule. If you're set to go out on a certain day, you can't just put it off if the weather's changing. I mean, you got to go out there and you got to deal with it. And I think with a bike in the back, you'd actually have even better luck with some of the traction. I mean, some of the situation we came to earlier today was just the fact that it's so light back there.
Yeah.
But I think you get a spring and bed liner, you have a bike or whatever, and just kind of load down that rear axle. It's really going to hook up. So.
Yeah. And then I don't know if you had mentioned to your viewers, but I also did the level kit, so a 2-inch level.
I think it looks good.
Yeah, a lot of that's just these things come pretty raked out stock, and I don't tow a ton, so I don't maybe need that extra rake. So with the bike in the back, I think it still looks good.
Yeah, totally. No, I mean, I hope the truck serves you well for a really long time. It'll be interesting to kind of see after you've done some of your longer drives and stuff what you think about it. But I was telling my viewers earlier in the video that if I were to buy a truck, it would be very similar to this. I mean, it would probably be the 2.7. The only thing I might do is probably try to find a longer bed, even though that's so hard to do these days. If you just want to go to a dealership and get a deal like you did, you're not getting a 6.5 foot bed. You're stuck with whatever.
They just don't bring as many in them,
they
I wouldn't
don't
imagine.
It's just pretty much all they stock is these short ones. But everything else, I mean, about the truck is so nice and shows that you don't have to take out an entire mortgage just to buy a full-size truck these days.
Yeah, some of the prices out there, I mean, there's some nice product, don't get me wrong, but I'm just not one of those guys who's gonna spend that on a truck.
Yeah.
And so for me, this kind of just fit the bill of having what I needed, with that kind of that blackout package. It had the look I wanted, and the price was pretty decent.
Yeah. Well, it was cool hearing from someone in the real world who isn't signing up for one of those 9-year-long, financing deals or something like that, because I think we see that a lot in the comments is people complaining about truck prices and new car prices in general. And yes, things have gotten very expensive, but you don't have to spend that in order to get something that's totally fine for you for everything you need.
Well, yeah, and a lot of, if you went a couple years back and looked at base vehicles, the wheels are the first thing you'd want to get rid of. But on these, I kind of like the wheels.
You decided not to. Yeah, you said initially you were going to, and then you were like, these actually look cool, and I agree.
And, maybe down the road, if I get a little tired of them, but I was curious to see what they'd look like once I put the tires on, and I'm pretty happy with them. So save myself a little bit of money, and I think the truck still looks good with them.
I think it looks great. Awesome. Well, thanks, Brad, for sharing your truck and your experiences so far, and thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to pick yourself up a set of the Wildpeak AT4Ws or any of the other Falken tires, check the link below. We'll have them listed there. Also, if you want to see a little bit more coverage on the truck, we've got our No Talking Winding Road Drive. Do a little bit of the off-roading and the highway driving as well, especially if you want to kind of experience what the truck sounds like without me yapping it all. Check the link below for that. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.